The hallway fell silent for a split second before the laughter started. A group of bullies had cornered a quiet black girl named Amina, pressing her against the lockers with cruel smirks stretched across their faces. One of them wrapped an arm around her throat, mocking her silence, while the others jeered like it was some kind of performance. They thought she was weak, an easy target who would never fight back. What they didn't know was that behind Amina's silence lived years of discipline, struggle, and training. She wasn't just a shy student. They were putting their hands on a fighter who had survived harder battles than they could ever imagine. Amina had come to this new school only 3 months earlier. Her father had taken a new job in the city, and she had to leave behind her friends, her community, and the MMA gym that felt like her second home. At first, she tried to blend in, staying quiet in class, keeping her eyes down in the hallways, hoping to get through the year without too much attention. But bullies have a way of finding those who appear silent, those they assume will never push back. Amina's skin, her quiet voice, and her outsider status made her their favorite target. It began with whispers, mocking her natural hair, calling her names they thought were jokes. Then it turned into accidental bumps in the hallway, pencils knocked from her desk, and cruel laughter echoing behind her every step. Amina carried the pain home silently, not wanting to burden her father, who was already working long hours to keep them afloat. Every night, she went to her room, unrolled her training mat, and practiced the same drills her coach had drilled into her for years. Footwork, striking, grappling. She told herself, stay disciplined. Stay calm. Don't let anger control you. But discipline became harder when the bullying turned physical. The group of kids cornered her more and more, testing her patience. One afternoon, it escalated. As she tried to walk past them, one of the boys yanked her backpack off her shoulders, another shoved her against the lockers, and then, mocking a wrestling move, one locked an arm around her throat. The hallway buzzed with whispers, some kids recording on their phones, others too afraid to step in. Amina's vision blurred for a moment from the chokehold, but her mind snapped into focus. She remembered her coach's words. Control the fight. Don't let fear own you. Use their strength against them. With a sudden pivot, Amina twisted her body, gripped the bully's arm, and in one smooth motion flipped him over her shoulder onto the floor. The hallway gasped. The boy landed hard, coughing and stunned, while the others froze in shock. Before they could react, another lunged toward her, and Amina sidestepped, using his momentum to sweep his legs out from under him. She didn't throw a single punch. She didn't need to. Her training taught her precision, control, and restraint. She only did enough to protect herself. By the time the second boy hit the ground, the rest of the group backed away, their false confidence shattered. The crowd of students who had once laughed now stared in silence. Amina stood tall, her chest rising and falling, her eyes steady. She didn't shout, didn't gloat, didn't taunt. She simply picked up her backpack and walked away with dignity, leaving the bullies to deal with the embarrassment of being exposed. But the fight wasn't the real victory. The real challenge came afterward. Rumors spread quickly, some exaggerated, some twisted. Teachers pulled her aside, worried about the violence, while other students approached her with wide-eyed respect. Amina was afraid her father would be called, that she'd be labeled as the problem. She struggled with the fear of being misunderstood, of being judged not for the strength of her character, but by the color of her skin or the force of her defense. That night, she sat across from her father at the dinner table, her hands trembling as she told him everything. To her surprise, he didn't scold her. Instead, he listened quietly, and when she finished, he reached across the table and took her hand. "Amina," he said gently, "I didn't raise you to start fights, but I also didn't raise you to let anyone steal your dignity. You showed control, not rage. That's the mark of true strength." The next day at school, something shifted. A few students came up to her in the cafeteria, not to tease her, but to thank her. One girl whispered that she had been bullied by the same group and was too afraid to speak up. Others began to sit with Amina, curious about her training, inspired by her courage. Even some teachers recognized the truth of what happened, that she had been defending herself with restraint, not lashing out recklessly. In time, the bullies kept their distance. They weren't fearless anymore, not after being exposed in front of everyone. But more importantly, Amina discovered something within herself. She wasn't just a fighter in the gym, she was a fighter in life. She learned that strength isn't about hurting others. True strength is about having the power to strike, but choosing restraint, about using discipline to rise above cruelty. By the end of the school year, Amina wasn't the quiet girl in the corner anymore. She became someone younger students looked up to, someone who showed them that silence doesn't mean weakness, and that sometimes the greatest power is carried with humility. And so, the story of the bullied black girl who flipped her tormentors spread through the school, not as a story of violence, but as a story of resilience, courage, and dignity. Amina walked through the halls with her head high, not because she had defeated her bullies, but because she had discovered the strength within herself to face them and still remain true to who she was. The message she carried with her was simple but powerful. You can't always choose what challenges come your way, but you can choose how to rise above them. And sometimes, the quietest person in the room is the one carrying the fiercest strength of all.